So right now, the education ecosystem is, it's a hot mess. Can I say it's a hot mess?
People keep saying, oh, we're getting back to normal, we're getting closer to normal. But I think we really need a new definition of what normal is.
I think there's a really slow recovery process that we're in right now. And unfortunately, because we don't have the masks and some of like the visual reminders, I think there's almost an assumption that we're further along in our recovery than we really are.
There's just a lot of things right now with our students and helping them figure out how to navigate school, how to navigate friendships, even just being in a classroom with a teacher.
There's nothing that's happening right now that's new. This ask for teachers to do more than what they've been hired and trained to do, that's not new, but now we're doubling down on it. The mental health crisis in our children and youth, that existed before the pandemic, and now it's been exacerbated.
And before, it was always this, well, this is that pocket of kids, right? This is the poor side of town, et cetera. This is these, and we certainly have that. We have those that have and those that have not. But the pandemic made it worse for everybody, right? And I think everybody understands that now, that teachers professionally really do make a difference. We are the caretakers of the culture that pass it forward.
Winston Churchill said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." We are on the other side of a pandemic, and there was so much hope that we would capture the moment and reinvent, innovate, make some of the things that weren't working for all kids better in education. And people are worried that we didn't do that.
We see, for example, right now, enrollment in school has gone down. And it's not simply because of demographics, but it's also that many parents are choosing to educate their kids at home, avoid schools they think are unsafe. And that is an indicator that something is wrong. We haven't recovered.
It's alarming, actually. It's really alarming to hear how many students do not come to school. The amount of absences. I mean, these are by definition truant students, but they're not, incapable of doing their work. They just socially, emotionally, mentally can't get themselves to a place to come physically to school.
The kids are not doing great. The kids need a lot of support and a lot of love right now. Coming out of COVID, I'm seeing a lot more anxiety, depression. A lot of people are experiencing a lot of overwhelm and overstimulation.
I've had a lot of violent outbursts in my classroom this school year. I had a fight break out in my classroom. I've had students throw things at each other, at me.
Technology, whether that's phones or video games or just watching content, there's more and more time separated from their peers, separated from their families. And what we've noticed is that young people are having a harder and harder time learning how to come together across their differences, navigating big emotions when things go wrong.
There's really this distinct shift in how students are being able to cope with just life.
I think a lot of them experience a lot of trauma, so that they feel like whenever they do feel pain or they're hurt, they don't know how to process that emotion. So I think that's one big challenge.
It's important to keep in mind that there were thousands of kids who lost a parent, a grandparent, a caregiver to COVID as a result of the pandemic. And I think that's not seen because it disproportionately affects the poorest people. On top of that now, we've had dozens of mass shootings.
There's that piece, and there's the social emotional learning too, that there's so many things. If a student is not going home and eating right and sleeping and doing all these things and getting the care that they need, how can we expect them to be in the classroom and open their minds to learning?
I know our teachers work on that daily. I think what makes it hard is there's a lot being asked of us right now, and we can't do it all.
You know, every year we get more and more things that we're required to teach, but with less resources. And this job is becoming impossible on paper because of that. And that's why I really believe that we're losing so many good people, because they can get jobs with more pay that are easier.
Schools need to be resourced appropriately. Teachers need to be paid a living wage. It's not supposed to be easy work, right? Nobody's asking it to be easy work, but don't put barriers in front of all of these people that don't need to exist.
As we're having this conversation, the question of how comes up. How do we do this? What do we do? Everything feels daunting. Everything feels overwhelming. How? We help teachers to be able to create trusted spaces within their classrooms. We help administrators to be able to create trusted spaces for their staff in order that we are creating these entities of healing where people can show up being their authentic selves and kind of working through these really hard situations that we're all in.
What we really need is to let kids move themselves through these spaces. And they do that when they feel safe, when it's expected, when it's modeled by the teachers, and when the content that's around them warrants it. It's not just about get your work done, it's about think about this work and now try to do something with it, but then notice something, right? And as you move yourself in and out of that space, you're building your mind and your brain. You're building your regulatory capacity. You're building your ability to adapt yourself to a communal space where people are thinking together.
Being visible, that's where the connection comes in. It's not from an office or an ivory tower where you're gonna write a slip so I wanted to talk to you. Right now, I'm out in the open. I'm here in this yard. It's not just to stand here as another object, but something where I could bounce an idea off a student, maybe get their perspective on something, maybe ask them how they're doing.
I think teens are smarter and wiser and have more wisdom than we give them credit for. I think they often know the answers to their own questions inside of themselves. And so I think that's something that I found a lot of success with in working with students is like, what would you tell me if I was in this position? If I was in your shoes right now, what would you say? What would you try to do to make me feel better?
We need to not be afraid of what our students tell us. We need to be empowered by it. We need to ask them, even if what we hear is a little bit of an ouch, we need to hear them. And that doesn't mean they always have to get their way. But when they feel heard and responded to, seen, that's when we're going to have them as allies.
The best leaders are the humblest servants. And when teachers come into the classroom, making it extremely known that they're paid to be here and that's it, is like, okay, I get it, you're paid to be here. Maybe you're underpaid, but you still have a class and I still have to graduate. So can we just be kind?
I have specific teachers that don't welcome us to class. How was your weekend? Like little messages like that go a long way.
Oftentimes I speak with other students and we all have the same question. And it's like we're not getting our questions answered by the teacher. So I know a lot of students will kind of suffer in silence trying to understand a concept or topic, and I've personally done this myself.
And to be honest, when students ask you questions, being condescending is like, okay, I will never ask you another question again.
I think I mostly see just the teacher because they don't really like tell us stories about them. We just know that they're there to teach us and stuff like that. But there are a few teachers that I know what happens like at home and what they're going through. And those are the teachers usually that help me and have conversations with me to know what I'm going through at home. I think those are better teachers.
They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So the question is, how are you going to show them? How are you going to create that safe environment? How are you going to deal with them when they come at you? And remember that it's not personal.
Some teachers, though, just aren't touchy-feely in that kind of way, and we need to respect that as well. But at the same time, we've also got to figure out how can we still build in that relationship piece, because if you don't have the relationship piece, you don't have discipline in your classroom.
So what do you do to get them to care as much as you do about what you teach? It's building relationships. Make it matter. How do you do that? Is be real with them.
So both common sense and a century of developmental science and the neuroscience all squarely point to the fact that to think about ideas that transcend the here and now, to think about the big ideas, the deep understanding, the why, the how, and not just the what, requires kind of letting go of your outward vigilance to maintain safety, to notice things in the environment. And so what students need and what teachers need too is a safe communal space where this is normalized, where this is valued.
I know that students really seek that time to connect with each other as human beings. So that sounds really warm fuzzy, and in some ways it is, but it's like the air they breathe, they need it.
I teach because sincerely, I think that every day provides an opportunity for me to build a lifelong relationship with somebody. I think it's part of my job to do that, and I think every day provides an opportunity for me to reach a kid, and I think that I'm the luckiest person in the world. I think I have the best job in the world. I don't see myself doing anything else.
When the classroom door closes, the teacher has a lot of power for creating that environment. And so my message to teachers is use that power. Use the power you have to build that community, because it does pay off. And you can create an environment that is supportive for your students without asking permission to do so.
It's on the horizon. I think it's something that we're going to talk about a lot in the years to come. It's gonna come here before we know it, for kids to have the human experience in school. And I think we need to start rethinking how we teach, what we teach, and why we teach.
Our kids deserve us to do the hard thing. Let's not look at it like what's not possible. We gotta look at it at what is possible, to lean into it and have fun with change. If we in the education system meet this moment well, with courage and optimism, with innovation, with learning for ourselves and shifting our mindsets, is how we move forward and heal in the most beautiful ways.